Welcome aboard, elevator enthusiasts and curious minds alike. You're tuned in to the Going Up podcast, the ultimate destination for all things elevators. I'm your host, Zara Shea-Joulay, and I am joined by the dynamic duo of elevator aficionados, Bobby Haskett and Josh Anderson. Get ready for a joyous journey into the vertical world, where we'll be lifting the lid on elevator stories, chatting with industry experts, and exploring the cutting-edge innovations that keep us all moving on up. This is the Going Up podcast, your weekly pass to the heights of elevator excitement. Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Going Up. We are here this week with your favorite elevator folks, Bobby Haskett and Josh Anderson. Thanks for joining us again this week, guys. Really appreciate it. And Sarah. And your host, Zara Shea-Joulay. That's right. So, guys, this week we are going to be talking on the topic of business/life, and we're going to be talking about low-hanging fruit. Okay, I know Josh is really stoked about this episode because it is one of his favorite topics that he loves to talk about. That isn't it right, Josh? You love to talk about it.
Oh, it's my favorite. Absolutely.
He loves the low-hanging fruit.
I love fruit.
Do you? Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
A good smoothie. Yeah. What's your favorite smoothie? What's your favorite ingredient?
Strawberry banana all day long.
All day long.
All day long.
I'd ask Bobby, but we both know that I don't think
he's more of a martini kind of guy.
Yeah, we wouldn't know. When's the last decade you had a smoothie, Bobby? That's a real question. Have you never had a smoothie? Zero. Okay,
I don't like them, man. I don't like them. My wife had me try a spinach smoothie at one point. And
just the way you said spinach.
That's a green drink. I'm talking like a smoothie with sugar and fruit in it.
Yeah. Some honey or no. For the record, for those out there, just a little tidbit of information on our dearest Bobby. Back in the day, he's much better at it now, but back in the day, Bobby used to have a glass of water about twice a year, and it would always be in the summer when he'd been out like mowing or something like that. It's really, really hot. He would have a glass of water. Other than that, he ran on Coke and Red Bull and coffee. I say coffee sparingly because it was creamer with a little bit of a splash of coffee. So he's done a lot better. I've seen him drink a lot more water. So good for you, Bobby. The smoothie will be next on the list.
There you go.
Yeah, heart attack will do that to you. So had the heart attack, thought that Red Bulls weren't the best idea.
That's probably, thank the Lord for that. Yeah. They give you wings and heart attacks. Okay. So let's talk about the low-hanging fruit, okay? So, Josh, let me kick it to you real quick. When we say low-hanging fruit, go ahead, define it for us. What do we mean by that?
So, our sales tactic at FabACab is to really get the elevator sales reps excited about selling interiors. And what we've learned in our years in the industry is not always are they trained on how to sell interiors. You know, they're making money on the repairs and the service and all of the things that go along with that. And a lot of times they don't want to touch interiors, you know, because they think that you need to be a specialist on how to match different things and all of the things that go along with interiors. And so we typically tell them, hey, interiors, you know, through FabACab have been made easy on the installation side of things. And so whenever you're talking, let's talk specifically about a mod. When they're remodeling an elevator interior, whether it's all the equipment behind the scenes or the inside of it, the industry calls that a mod, right? So whenever we're talking about a mod specifically, why not throw in the option for a new interior? Because if you're spending $100,000 plus on modding your elevator and you did nothing with the interior, a lot of times people don't love that because they were like, hey, I spent all this money and I don't really see what I got for my money. So we're like, listen, the low-hanging fruit would be the interior, because the concept is people generally understand things like interiors way more than they understand the mechanics and all the equipment behind the scenes, right? Because that's why HGTV is such a popular thing, because everyone can understand design. We go to Lowe's, we go to Home Depot, and we buy our own things to remodel our houses, right? So people understand when you're talking to them about wood finishes and metal and all of that, but maybe at times it's a little over their head when you're talking about the elevator equipment. So why not throw some of that low-hanging fruit in there, which would be the interior? And if budget becomes a constraint, interiors are the first thing to go. But a lot of times people are like, oh, when you're spending that much money in interiors, probably pretty inexpensive. Yeah. So we encourage people, our reps, we encourage the reps that we work with in the elevator industry as well, go after the low-hanging fruit. It's an easy conversation to start. Yeah. You know, here's what it looks like before. Hey, I saw that. Here's an example. I was in a cab a few weeks ago, and they just wanted wall panels. Totally fine. We were there surveying it. It did need some new wall panels, but it was around spring break time, and it was at a resort, and it had the old style, not egg crate, but it was like that translucent light with the fluorescence above it, right, for the ceiling. You could see pop cans on top of that translucent.
That's sexy.
And so
sexy.
It was great. And so I went back to that end user and said, hey, I noticed that you could see pop cans or beer cans thrown above the ceiling. With our ceilings, that's something that you wouldn't have to worry about. Can I interest you in that? And that conversation, oh, absolutely. You can do that where we wouldn't have to worry about that anymore. So my point is, it's much easier to talk to people about interiors than it is, hey, you know, you need a new door operator or something. I mean, sometimes that's code, but you know what I mean? Like it's just not something that people can relate to as much as an interior. So we classify it as the low-hanging fruit.
So
Bobby, what experience do you have
the fruit lowest,
with the low-hanging fruit?
Easiest to reach.
Yeah. So what I like to refer to is you know, I agree with what Josh said about the mod. And, you know, if you're bidding a mod, you might as well go ahead and bid the interior because the exponential amount of money that they're going to spend. But I love to get with the service and repair folks that are fresh out of school. And I go, listen, I understand that you have a goal of X. And you are overwhelmed right now wanting to know how you're going to get there. Well, I'm going to tell you the best way to do it.
A sales goal, right?
That's right, a sales goal. Yeah. So every time that you go and visit a customer, I said, I want you to go in, take a picture of the cab, and take a picture of the capacity and email it to me. Here's why. Let's get the paper on the street. That gives them some reassurance that they're getting quotes out, even as they're learning. And what's nice is it's very low risk for them because as long as they follow our top 10 card, which, you know, we've spoke about in other podcasts that we've done. And once again, if anybody,
Juan, he will link it below. Thank you, Juan.
That's right. See below for our top 10 card. But once they follow that top 10 card and they send that to us, it's almost like an insurance policy. What we're going to do is we're going to say, hey, here's a couple different models. Here's the way I would go about it. And we find ourselves teaching the new reps in the industry on how to even present that. You know, we have nothing to do with the pricing and the markup of it. You know, that's company standards. But it's more about, you know, telling them and explaining them and using that reference, you know, as we talk about the low-hanging fruit is I'm like, listen, people don't like nasty elevators to ride up and down in. And I said, it's one of the easiest sells you can do. And, you know, we've got a couple good success stories that we took people that was, you know, right out of school and absolutely killed it. You know, I had one girl that second year out of school, she got saleswoman of the year. Shout out, Emily, to you if you're listening out there with Otis Elevator. Just wanted to say that a lot of the reason that she was able to do that is she was really good at that taking a picture while she's there. She used to tell me stories, Bobby. I had to go and take some measurements and pictures for a new door operator. While I was there, I just decided to take a picture of the cab too and shoot you the capacity of it. You gave me a budget number, and I'll be darned if they didn't do both at the same time.
Bobby, and didn't you say that she was able to meet her annual goal, and she told you it was because of interiors? It was because
yeah.
having that extra piece to sell in her back pocket was available because it was
Yes.
easy. People understood it.
Yeah, we had another rep, and it was with one of the bigs, and he hit his sweeps for all year. And
Sweeps. What does that mean?
sweeps is basically you're hitting your quarterly goal every quarter, and you do that consistently throughout the year. And I asked him, and this is what he told me, and it was so interesting. And for all the sales reps out there that are in the elevator industry, I give you this advice. He told me that he never bid a job without including a cab interior, and he would explain to them why it's cheaper to do it while their crew is there doing the door operator. He absolutely killed it because of that. So just a little tip for you out there. If you're going to be bidding something and the elevator interior is nasty, get it in front of them. We as salespeople don't always love capital planning. I know that. It is a long-term thought process versus an immediate fix. But the quicker you get that in front of them, the quicker they know what kind of dollars, if they can't afford it this year, to be able to budget for in the years to come.
Ooh, actually, Bobby, that's a really great transition into one of our lines of topic here, because we also want to talk about quick wins versus long-term strategy. So exactly what you're talking about, maybe it is a quick hitter. Somebody's reaching out. It might be that situation like Josh was in, where he looks up and sees, oh, there's Coca-Cola, RC Cola, and some Sunkiss up there. So Sunkissed? I don't know. Is there a T at the end?
I think it's a kissed.
Is it? Oh God. Well, we're definitely not going to get sponsored by them. But but talking about, it might be a quick hit like that where it's like, oh, we need to get this fixed really quickly. I just had a email recently talking about some water damage in an elevator. That's a quick hit, quick fix type of thing situation. But also you have the long-term strategy. So what you were talking about, Bobby, that getting the paper on the streets, and we're specifically talking about our world of elevator interiors, but this applies to any industry that you're in.
Sales, for sure.
Identifying the things that are the easiest thing for people to recognize and relate with, because that's with what Josh was saying. The design aspect, that's something that we as people can relate with. We can physically touch and and see and stuff like that. So identifying those things, but
it's like, when you go car shopping,
which Josh loves to do.
That's an understatement. That's an understatement.
So I'll come back and I'll tell my wife like all these really cool specs. It can go 0 to 60 and blah blah blah. And she's like, "Hey, I've got a question." I'm like, "Yeah, what color is it?" I'm like, it's blue or whatever. You know what I mean? Because people can relate to like what they can see, and that's and a lot of times people equate quality with what they're seeing. So as we said before, put $100,000 in the cab, but if it looks terrible. I've had doors open before, and you're like, I don't know if I want to get in there.
Yeah.
I don't know if that thing's gonna make it.
Yes.
And so many times we've been back to jobs that have already been installed, and we go back to get some pictures. Strike me dead if I'm lying right now. This is what people that ride up the elevator with us say to us. What floor are you on? I said, oh, we're just here taking a few pictures, ma'am. And the next thing you know, she goes, I tell you what. This elevator has not went down one time. It rides like a Cadillac. What they don't know is they didn't touch anything in the daggum elevator mechanics of it.
Yeah. That's so funny.
That's 100% accurate. People get really excited because all of us will go and do a survey, and when I say survey, I just mean going to the elevator, getting dimensions of the elevator, and taking a look at it. And every time, there's always people who are excited, and the first thing they're asking is, what are you taking measurements for? Are we getting a new elevator?" Which to them, they don't know what that means, so that's fine. I'm just like, "Oh, I'm just here to make it look a little prettier," and oh, wow, like they're just so excited about it, and then they
I
tell
like to
me
play
all
with
the
them a
things
little
that's
bit.
wrong.
I'm like, you guys want a fish tank on the back wall? What do you think about that?
Yeah.
I'm never gonna see him again. Like,
Yeah.
just what-
I still stand
let
by
'em
the
dream
fact
big.
FabACab, we need to get shirts that are specifically saying like, "Hey, I'm just here for the ride," because
That's it.
I swear, like there's so
We've all
many
said
times.
it.
Yes, it happens all the time, all the time. But to get back to our topic that we were just
Sorry,
talking about,
I got you off topic.
Yeah, you definitely got me off
apologize.
topic. I'm the host, so if you could please just step in line,
Okay.
that'd be great.
I will. Yes, ma'am.
Also, for those watching and listening, I apologize if you hear me coughing. I'm getting over some sickness, and so I'm sorry if you have to hear me cough. Our producer promised me he's going to edit all of it out because he's just that good, but just wanted to apologize in advance. So, quick wins versus long term. So the big question is, guys, for both of you, like, how do we balance that? Because the quick wins are obviously the ones that are going to be more of the like, hey, let's take those. We like having those, but how do you and Bobby specifically, like with director of sales, this is a really great question for you. How do we balance that? Because we know we have goals to hit right now, but we also know we have to think long term and in a broader perspective. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I will first and foremost say this: do not underestimate capital planning. What we like to do here is we will get a rep and we will educate them. I think that's what we like to hang our hat on here. That is one of the many things that make us different from some of the other companies out there is not only do I want you to succeed, but I'm going to help you make a plan. And here is, the plan is for every quick hitter, you need to capital plan 4 jobs. If you do that, you will absolutely hit a home run every single year. It's the people that I notice that either A, don't feel like they're going to be at the company very long, so they're not interested at all in doing any capital planning. What I tell a lot of people is, and first of all, just to clarify what capital planning is for some of you out there that don't know what that is.
Yeah.
What that is that is giving them a good budget number so the company or corporation that you're calling on is able to allocate X amount of dollars per year, and they may have to capital plan that out to be installed 5 years from now. But what is really unique and that we've noticed, and Zara being on the sales team and Josh as well, we've seen this over the years time and time again, is we'll get with somebody that says, "Hey, Bobby, there's 9 elevators here. The interiors are horrible, but they can barely afford the door operator it's going on." Here's what I say. "Hey, no problem, Jill. What I'd like for you to do is go ahead and send me the capacities or the measurements of the cab following that top 10 card. And what I'm going to do for you, you keep doing what you do. You keep selling and doing what you're doing. I'm going to put together a couple good quotes for you for a few different models with renderings. Let me kick them back to you. And that's something that you could give to your customer as a tool for them moving forward." And even though if they're not going to drop the money this year, my advice to you is what we had said in our earlier training podcast. Treat them as if they are buying it this year. We show them just as much love as we do the quick hitters, if that makes sense. You got to show them because they still want to design their cab. They still want to have input in it. And by the time that they end up, we end up designing what was in their mind, they have a really good number to be able to put money back for it to save that. And I have personally been in more than one job before that when I go and see the end user with my customer, the elevator rep, they've got our rendering pinned up on their cubicle because they designed that. And that's the
Hmm.
cab they're going to get in 4 more years. It's pretty
Hmm.
important.
Hmm. Do you feel like? Do you ever feel like? Because you were talking about both the quick hitters and the capital plan. Do you feel like sometimes us as sales reps get too focused on the quick sales and don't really focus so much on the capital plans?
Yes, I think how about this? For most of the average sales reps out there,
Mm-hmm.
they have that attitude. They don't want to put any effort into capital planning that doesn't get them now.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to meet the rock stars of the industry, every one of them are capital planning like you wouldn't believe. Trust me when I tell you that, folks. Capital plan like you wouldn't believe. And here's the thing. All the bigs, almost all the elevator companies in the whole United States have goals for they need a capital plan for X amount of projects or X amount of dollars.
Yeah.
Why not take that low hanging fruit and what we notice is everybody is really excited to get on the phone to design an elevator, interior versus nobody wants to get on the phone and talk about replacing machineries up in the machine room that nobody ever looks at. So
Hmm.
that's where we talk about low hanging fruit.
Yeah. I did really like. I wrote down something that you said. One quick hitter. For every one quick hitter, you should have four capital plans. I think that's
That's
a
right.
really great solidified. Because we can say it in all kinds of terms, but I think that's a really great solidified. Great tip there. That's a quick hot tip right
Great
there.
tip, Robert.
One quick
Hey, and if
hitter,
you're not
four capital
closing
plans.
at a minimum of 25% of the quotes that you're sending out, you need to step back and evaluate your sales process.
Oh.
Industry standard in our industry is about 27.5%. And
Mm.
so I just tell everybody a good rule of thumb. If you're under 25% hit ratio, you need to sit down and have a good look at what you're doing and get with one of your coworkers, your boss, your superior,
Yeah.
and see what kind of tips and tricks they can give you on that.
Hmm. That's great. That's a great hot tip. Hot take. Love it. Josh, did you have anything else you wanted to add to that before we move on to the next point? Just want to give you your opportunity
No, the
to
only thing
shine.
I want to just we keep referring to bigs. For those that don't know, in the elevator industry, there's four major players. There's Otis Elevator, TK Elevator, Schindler Elevator, and Kone Elevator. So they're essentially in every market. So when we refer to the bigs, those are the big players in our industry that we deal with on a daily basis. So,
Yeah.
But
no.
the independents are coming on strong.
Yeah, they are. They
Exactly.
are.
We love our independence, that's for
That's
sure.
right.
But yeah, now
That's
all
right.
of you listening to this podcast are going to be ruined forever because when you walk into elevators or go down escalators, you'll be able to see like a plate that has the name of the elevator company on there, and
Yeah.
most likely you're going to see ThyssenKrupp is what it was before, so TK, Otis, Kone, or Schindler. So you
Yeah.
are ruined forever, as is
You're welcome.
most of our
That's right.
friends. Yeah, friends and
You're
family.
welcome.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
That's our horrendous gift to you. Uh,
Yes.
okay, so let's talk about the next thing. Let's talk about we're talking about the quick hits, we're talking about the low hanging fruit, we're talking about all this stuff, the sales aspect of it. Let's talk a little bit about FabACab itself is a very we've built ourselves from the beginning. I say we've like I'm part of the co-founders here, Bob and Josh.
You were
From
with
the
us from the beginning, Z.
That's right.
from
That's
part of the
right.
beginning. But FabACab has built itself around being customer centric and focused on the people. Josh, I know you've always talked about, and this gets brought up a lot, when you used to get so angry when people used to say we're customer focused. Go ahead, tell us that little bit, because I know you love saying it. So
I don't like hollow promises.
yes.
So any company, you go to their website and it's like, here's what we have amazing customer service. Well, what does that mean? I'm much more like show me instead of telling me about it. So that's I'm a big fan of seeing rather than just hearing about what you're going to do.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And so with that, FabACab, with that, and Josh has been like that since the beginning. I remember him talking about that all the way at the beginning. So with that customer centric type of approach, how do you feel like, and this applies to us, but any other business, how do you feel like that helps to identify the low hanging fruit, and how do you help it, how do you think it helps identify that low hanging fruit quicker and to be able to get to those quick sales quicker and those capital plans quicker? What do you feel like, how do you feel like that contributes to that?
I think FabACab would make a very interesting case study for a sales college course, because very early on, like we have customers that we sell to. And I was just having this conversation with Andy, our marketing guy,
Shout out to Andy.
just earlier today. And one of the things that we started out at FabACab doing is we marketed toward the end user. So our customer at FabACab is the elevator contractor. So we talk about the bigs. It's the Schindler, Kone, TK, Otis, right? And the independents. That's our customer base, the people who work on and service the elevators. Their customers are the people who own the building, manage the building, that kind of stuff. Well, what FabACab did early on is we recognized that we needed to market toward the end user to be a service to our customer who was new at selling or unfamiliar with selling the interior. So trying to understand the customer very early on was something that we worked really hard to do. And I remember, and you guys probably will remember this, Andy putting us through this exercise, Andy, our marketing guy, putting us through this exercise of customer personas, like trying to identify the different types of customers, because we don't have just one type of customer. Because even when you get into the elevator industry, you've got mod sales, you've got service and repair sales, and you've got superintendent. We're serving so many different types of people there. Then you go in on the end user side, you've got just a person who owns a building that has an elevator. You've got a property management company. You have a university. You have a healthcare, conglomerate that owns multiple. So trying to understand the customer has been at the heart of FabACab. And so we put a lot of energy into being customer centric, understanding who we're selling to and how to talk to them, and how we can, as we talk about low-hanging fruit, how can we get them excited about something as boring as an elevator interior, right? Like it's walls in a box. So how can you get people excited about that? And so that's something that we've really been focused on since our beginning.
Yeah, something something I want to add to what Josh says for our listeners out there. You'll hear us talk about our customer and then the end user. The end user is the person that either owns the building, like Josh says, manages the building. But one thing that's very, very important for everybody out there to hear from us, we do not sell to the end user. We only sell to the elevator industry.
Yeah,
we
us
will.
personally, yeah.
That's right. We never sell to the end user. One of the biggest reasons.
And that's why. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say that's why I felt like we would be such a fascinating company to study, because we market towards not even our people who are writing us a check. We're marketing toward our customer's customer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's fascinating, because you're right. We don't sell to that end user, but they're the ones who need to get excited and come back and be like, hey, look, I want a new interior. Can you help me with that? Right.
Yep. Yeah.
So that's so interesting. And that was something that took us a while to wrap our head around in the very early stages. But yes, we don't sell to the end user. That's not who's paying us.
And we've gotten a lot more as the years have gone by. We've gotten a lot more. I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like more at the beginning of FabACab, we relied more on our customer, right? The bigs, the independents, the elevator contractors. And now we have a lot more people of end users who we don't sell to, a lot more of those people reaching out to us because they found us on Instagram, they found us on a Google search, they found us on XYZ. Shout out marketing. All right, hey, but like they found us through that, and then we backtrack it to the elevator company, the elevator
Yeah.
contractor, because we're selling to them. So we get them connected. It's kind of a weird back door of like,
Yeah.
okay, who are you working with? Let's get you connected with that person so that we can sell it to them, and then they can
That's
install
right.
it and all that other stuff, you know. So
They help us, we help them. It's just such a weird dichotomy on how that
know.
shakes down.
but the
Such a
trust
weird
is there.
dichotomy. Such a weird
Yeah.
dichotomy.
I'm sorry. Can you say that for me one more time, Bobby?
Please
Weird.
watch your mouth. This is a family friendly.
Yeah, I felt like you were
podcast.
cursing at dichotomy. I feel like sending dichotomy pics or something. I don't know. I felt
I don't like it
uncomfortable. I
at
felt
all.
uncomfy.
I'm
I'm
nervous.
gonna shake that off. But it's true, and that trust is there because of exactly what Bobby said. Because we don't sell to the end user, so that trust is there, and that's why it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's specifically talking about our company and what we do.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you guys want to kick in on what role does the customer feedback play in how we decide what the hanging fruit is? Or do you feel like you love what we talked about? Bobby, you look
And
like
how it pertains to what? Like our product, our service?
not like how we identify the low hanging fruit. Here's the question: do we only rely on the feedback from the customer, or do we rely on intelligence from our internal as well?
I would say both. Yeah.
Oh, both. A hybrid.
Yeah. You mean internal as far as the elevator contractors?
I mean,
Is that
yeah, I could mean that. I also meant like internally FabACab, like us having the discussion and saying, how do we want to present this, and what do we want to define as the low hanging fruit? Because I will say, here's my thought with this. I often say when I talk to customers, I'll always say, there are companies out there that will tell their customers what they want, and FabACab has always been a company that has asked the customer what they wanted and gone, move forward based on that. So, I
Yeah.
mean, that's how I presented it, but I suppose if I'm wrong, I give you guys the opportunity to say anything different than that.
Yeah, I would say 100% we're listening to the customer on what they want. But at the same time, it's our team spends a lot of time maybe explaining, and this is more probably for the end user, like that property manager, condo association board type of situation,
Yep.
explaining more to them what they need, because a lot of times they don't know. I want this
Yes.
updated, and so Bobby will go into this because I know it's something that he's really passionate about. But if we ride those elevators, right? So when we're in there surveying, and I'll take a condo for an example, and let's say there's tons of Airbnbs or rental properties within this condo complex. They don't own it. They don't have any skin in the game, right? They're on vacation. That's party central, right? So they come in there with all their suitcases and they're just slamming them against the door and
Yep.
everything. We're probably going to recommend some, hardier materials and maybe some bumper rails to make sure things stay protected. They don't know that that's even an option. They don't know that that's something they may need because they're not looking at their elevator from that perspective. And so we bring
Yes.
that perspective. But as far as like what's popular, like, we go all the time to places for lunch, let's just say with our staff, and we're like, oh, that's Fifth Avenue Elm. And like we can call out all the laminates because we're like, that's what's popular right
We're
now.
those
So
weirdos, yes.
we definitely watch trends and listen to customers and what they're buying and what they're not buying. But at the same time, we bring that level of professional analysis to each and every project. And here's what I think would work really well for your space.
Yeah, I like what you were saying. They don't know what they don't know, and that's not a slam on anybody.
Yeah.
That's simply there are lots of things that I don't know. So I mean, being open, in those conversations to figure out exactly, as a salesperson, I need to be super open. My ears need to be, what did they say in elementary school? Active listening ears on, guys. In order to hear, I always ask the customers, tell me what you like about your current interior, tell me what you don't like, tell me what you're looking for, and tell me about the traffic that you have in this elevator. Tell me about what type of traffic you have, because by asking just those few questions, which, if I can say anything to sales reps in general, shut up and ask more questions. People will sell so much more if you will just shut up and ask more questions. But so just by asking,
I agree.
yes, just by asking those few questions, I'm able to gather a whole bunch of information from that customer, and then I'm able to speak to them on what's important to them. But also, I also can find out what kind of those missing links are for them, because they might say, oh, we want glass everywhere, we just love glass.
Right.
But then they talk about, oh, it's a garage elevator and we have lots of damage in it. I'll be like, whoo, okay, so there's a missing link of information there. And so I'm able to speak to that specifically, and I know all of us deal with that. But in a way, I kind of view that knowledge, like giving that knowledge, as low hanging fruit in a way, because it's like, as soon as I can't help but like do this motion when I think about low hanging fruit. And for those, just
No.
if you're only listening,
If you're
just
watching,
be
I'm
grateful.
sorry for what
Be
she's doing.
grateful.
Yeah. Ugh.
But I can't help it. So with that low hanging fruit, I feel like giving people knowledge to move forward is a part of that, because by simply imparting some of the knowledge of, hey, I hear what you're saying, but let's talk a little bit about my expertise, and my expertise says, based on what you're telling me, I don't think that this material that you're looking at is going to line up. And there are so many times, and I know both of you have experienced this too, there's so many times people latch on to us for future projects as well, because they're like, that person told me, don't go with glass, which, let's be real, would have been the more expensive thing. And there are companies that will just sell you the most expensive thing and walk away. But we instead said, I don't think you need that. I think you need something that's actually going to be cheaper. And here's why I think you need it. And people latch on and keep coming back because of that. So in a way, there's the products that are the low hanging fruit, but I feel like there are sometimes people, in the knowledge that you can impart onto them can be a low hanging fruit as well. Just a thought. Just my thought for the day. That's the only one I got. The rest of them are
For your
gone.
thoughts?
I feel like that was worth at least 2 cents. 2 cents to rub together. Okay. So let's talk about efficiency. Okay. So how do you feel like, as a business, how do you feel like going after that low hanging fruit can actually help us as a company, as a business, run more efficiently? And you got two co-founders here, president of the company, director of sales. What's your thoughts on, Bobby? I want to hear from you first. I think, like, what's your thoughts on, from the sales perspective, on how that helps the sales team run more efficiently, by going after that low-hanging fruit?
Because to be one of the best salespeople, you are an educator first and foremost to your customer. The low hanging fruit is all about education, educating the new reps in the industry, even some of the older reps, of the FabACab way to sell interiors. And what people realize very, very quickly is they'll send us an email. I just got one this morning. Bobby, I need you to contact Kathy at ABC Company. I need you to get with her. Let me know what she wants. I've got X amount to spend on material. You know what? That's because he's been educated and trained up to this point. It only took him 3 minutes to send me an email, and it's going to allow him to go and see 4 more elevators today and bid 4 more door operators than running back to the office to see if the mail came today for a laminate sample to take over to him. You know, that's what I'm going to tell you as far as operational efficiency. That's what we show, you know, efficient. And I have no problem to tell people, and I do it all the time. Hey guys, this is the space we play in. The only thing we sell is elevator interiors. We know this like the back of our hand. And if you do A, B, and C, and you follow the top 10 card, I promise you, me and you are going to sell a lot of cabs together. And I'm going to tell you that 65% of the time, that comes true. You know,
Yeah.
niches get riches. You know what I mean?
I have never heard that term in my life.
No.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's a niches get riches. I feel
That's
like I
right.
want
Like
a shirt.
niche markets?
Yeah,
Is that what you're talking about?
niche markets. Yeah,
Whatever,
Yeah.
niche, notch, niche, it doesn't matter. What I'm saying
that
is
was
if you
gonna
get
go-
it, you get it. You cash checks and break necks. You got to be an educator out there, okay?
Wow, I feel like I want a shirt with both of these things.
Yeah.
Niches get riches and cash checks
Hey.
and break necks. Is that
What about
Yeah.
dichotomies?
dichotomy? That just seemed aggressive the way it was said.
Yeah.
To go off of Bobby, kind of what you were talking about, the people aspect of it as well. I will say, kind of bouncing off my thought before of like of the education being the low hanging fruit. The people are the low hanging fruit as well for us, for what we do, and I think in a lot of industries. Because you were talking about, and we've talked about this before, some of the reps that we have some of the most success with are reps that are fresh out of training. They come into the industry, and Bobby loves being Papa Bobby. Come under his wing, and he will educate you, and he will tell you all the things, and you know, make you feel comfortable to go out into the world and sell elevator interiors. And so I feel like bringing those people on, bringing them in, letting them have a place where they can ask any question that they have, because we all get this, like, we get a phone call and it's like, I got a really stupid question.
Yep.
No baby, come here, come to Mama Z, get into
Yeah.
this nook, let's go, you know. Lay your head down, you know. And so being able to impart that knowledge to those people who are receptive to it, because for us in our industry, we're giving them the knowledge and then they are going out. So while we may be investing in that one person is then going out and they're selling to their entire book of business. So it's like we have little sales reps out there in the world for us. That relationship that we're building with them, I feel like plays into that low hanging fruit aspect as well. Josh, you have any thoughts on that? That relationship aspect?
Yeah, I don't think you're going to want it. I mean,
Tell it to me.
100%.
Tell it to me.
100%. That's the theory. You know, you get it, but you got some reps who's like, man, I can't smack you in the head any harder. You're not going to get this. Like, it's not.
Yes.
It's not working. Like, that exists as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
It's called lazy. Go ahead.
What? On their part?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's that's exactly what it is. You know, it's like, man, I handed you this on a silver platter. What in the world is going on? And that's, you know, I have a couple of those happening right now. So yeah, that's my piece of like, there are going to be times where you have to get creative on the way you explain the low hanging fruit. Because some people, like the one Bobby was referencing early, the person who was fresh out of college and needed that to hit her goal, she latched onto that quick and understood what her role in this whole process was. And sometimes it is, hey, I'm trying to give you something really cool here and you're just not getting it. That can be frustrating. So navigating those relationships isn't always easy. But yeah, I mean, it's a relationship game. Just how can you get through to those people? That's the challenge.
Yeah. I agree. And I've always thought, because for those of you who don't know, I never did sales before I came onto FabACab. I never thought I would do sales a day in my life, because I think of like the door-to-door salesperson, cold calling all the time. I have zero interest in that. I worked at a restaurant, nondescript because I don't know that I can say their name, but I worked at that restaurant which had a store, and it was not it was not that restaurant, but I worked at
Oh,
that
sorry.
restaurant, had a store in it, and a miserable time because all it was trying to upsell people and to get them to buy really crappy
Oh, I
stuff.
knew which
Yeah,
one.
uh-huh. And so
Yeah.
and so
A
I
lot of rocking chairs. That's all I can say. Sorry.
so
Oh,
I never envisioned myself as a salesperson. But coming to FabACab, the whole reason Josh convinced me to come to FabACab was because he said it's all about
Applebee's.
build. He did take me to Applebee's for a first meeting. I was like, this is not going well. He made me order off of an appetizer menu. I'm just kidding. That's not true. But
Sounds like me.
but he was like, listen, this isn't the sales that you're thinking of. This is
Yeah.
relationships. This is continual investing in people. And that's what made me come on board, because I love investing in, I love people, and I love being a resource to people. And so this low hanging fruit kind of happens naturally for people who love people and genuinely love helping them. And I've always wondered how people who don't actually like people, I've always wondered how they do sales, because I'm like, I would be miserable if I didn't like people. I just don't know how they do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
It's a people game. We
yeah,
sell elevator interiors, but this is the people business for sure.
yeah, absolutely. I agree. I agree. Okay, so let's move on really quickly. Let's talk about super quickly. I just want to touch on this. You know, we've defined what low hanging fruit is in general. We've talked about more specifically what it is for us, that low hanging fruit. I want to talk about the adapting of market changes, right? We've established what low-hanging fruit is for us specifically as a company, as FabACab. We've talked about low-hanging fruit in general, but I want to talk about, as market changes, does the low-hanging fruit change? As we all know, unless you were living under a rock, we all went through lockdown and COVID and stuff like that, and we as a company we had to shift how we were doing business at the time, and we tried different avenues of different things to be able to reach customers and things like that, but there was obviously buildings weren't being inhabited, therefore things like this just were taken, elevator interiors were taken off the list of things that were important. So guys, I want you to kind of just talk about how, not only things like that, but like economically, like how do we adapt to those those market changes, in defining what the low hanging fruit is, and how to go after that.
How do we identify the market changes and how to go after that?
Yeah.
So
Does
I
that
would
change the
say
low hanging fruit?
absolutely. I mean, it changes the way because okay, well, I'll go off of what you said. Through COVID, it was true that a lot of buildings were uninhabited and people weren't coming back to the office. They're working from home. It's more of a but FabACab spun that narrative on its head and said, hey, what an opportunity. There's no one in your building right now. What an amazing time to remodel your elevator interior, right? So we had to adjust our message at that point. The low hanging fruit just was on a different tree. We had to go find the different tree and figure out how we were going to pick that fruit. So a lot of times you just have to look at it in that lens. And so that's probably one example of what we did to adjust to the market.
Bobby, do you feel like, as I know that you're a person that's really in tune with the economics of the U.S. and stuff like that. Do you feel like, with the things that you've been seeing, and all of it is, a lot of it's hypothetical, and what you hear one thing one day of what's happening, and then another day you'll hear something else. So how do you feel like that might change that message that we put out? Just like Josh said during the pandemic, do you feel like there needs to be a shift in how people go after that low hanging fruit as the economics and the market changes?
There's a couple different types of salespeople out there that I'll tell you, Z.
Yeah.
You got a bucket of salespeople over here that'll use every excuse under the book of why they're not getting sales. There's another group of people over here that will adapt and overcome. And I really believe that no matter what industry you're in, yes, it can tighten up, but there's still work out there. You know, you guys know this, but I'm going to say it again. One of my favorite quotes from Estee Lauder.
Estee Lauder, who
when you
was a
think-
man and not a woman.
That's right. When you think you can't go on, you force yourself to keep going. Your success is based on persistence, not luck. I welcome the challenges. I like them every now and then. The older I get, the less I want to deal with them, to be honest with you. But I really thrive off challenges. When there's a problem, I like it. I like it because I feel like we as a team are going to come up with a strategy to just knock it out of the park. And knock on wood, we've been able to do that up to this point. What I will tell you is during the COVID times, a lot of people just sitting at home watching TV. What our sales team's doing is they're sitting down making videos on quick tips and tricks on how to do it. That is an example of pushing forward. Put an obstacle in front of us, we'll kick it out of the way and keep going. And we project that onto our customers. Meaning, I love it when I have a customer call me and say, listen, Bobby, I am struggling. I don't even know if I'm going to hit my goal this year. All right, let's put a plan together. Let's do this. We got this. Let's go. Let's quote, okay, I need you to quote 8 elevator interiors a month so we can sell 2.
Yeah.
It's just,
Well, it's a bit of no. I agree with Bobby 100%, and I think if you give the negativity, I'm not suggesting put your head in the sand and like completely ignore what's going on around you, but a lot of times it's perspective, and if you give that negativity any type of oxygen, it's just going to perpetuate and get bigger. But to put a bow tie on this, if we're talking specific to any type of market, or any type of happenings economically around the country or whatever it may be, this is going back to our previous conversation that's why you need to have a good balance of the capital planning and a good balance of the quick hitters, low hanging fruit, because a lot of times, and this is what we saw during the pandemic, we had enough in the pipeline of capital planning that was already approved way before anybody knew COVID was coming. Those people already had that in their budget. So that helped us through that. But also going back out there and trying to find those quick hitters allowed us to survive too. So having a nice balance of those two is wildly important, because if you put too much in one category, any type of market adjustment can affect you. So that would be how I see it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Bobby, I know you talked about kind of one of your big success stories, with the gal out of, wasn't it Ohio? Was she out of, became salesperson of the year and all that stuff?
yeah, she's out of Indy.
Indy, out of Indy. Yeah. So we have that. I wanted to add another small, short little success story. So it was a customer that actually used to be Bobby's. It was in Texas, and then became my customer eventually. And the reason he saw so much success, he was the top salesperson of elevator interiors, like the elevator companies. He was the top person that sold the most FabACab elevator interiors. And the reason for it was, and this kind of sums up a lot of the different things that you guys were talking about, he was going after the quick hitters. He was a modernization sales rep, and like Josh talked about earlier, what that was. But he was going after those quick hit type of things. But he also every single proposal that he put together, every single one, didn't matter what that proposal included, he always, if they didn't ask for it, he always put a line item in for a cab allowance. For those of you who don't know what a cab allowance is, it's just a line item, on a different page of your proposal that just simply says, hey, if you want to do a cab interior, an elevator interior, this is how much it would cost to get that added to it. This was hugely beneficial in two big ways. One, the fact of the matter is, like we've all talked about, people don't know what they don't know. A lot of times people will go through a full modernization. They'll go through weeks of a modernization. The elevator has been down. People have had to use the stairs all this time. The day comes, the door opens, and it looks the same. And people are mad. They don't see what's changed. They don't understand that, the Gibbs are better and the ride is... They don't understand any of that. That's not something that they can relate to. So he did such a good job of talking to those customers, building relationships with those customers, and saying, hey, listen, you don't want this to happen. You don't want those doors to open and for people to be upset that the cab has been shut down for that long and it looks the same, right? Additionally, you want to be able to have like a big wow moment to get people excited about it. And additionally, you're able to then kind of bump up what type of tenants you can expect to be there, because there are studies on what people look at and how they judge your business. And Bobby, you talked about this particular study, and I can't remember where it came from, but the top 3 things people look at and judge your business on, that's 4. I just held up 4 fingers. Don't, I'm getting over sickness. Top 3 things people look at. They look at your landscaping as they're coming into the building. They look at your lobby.
Amen.
Wow. They look at your lobby, and then they look at your elevator. Those are things that they're judging the success of your business or your building on. So building owners, take note of that. People are looking at your elevators. And if you have a ceiling that has a light that's flickering, it doesn't matter if it has the best machine on the market. Yeah. They're still not getting into that because it looks like, it's scary. It's scary. It's like from the Saw movies. So I'm just saying, guys, there's so many ways to go after the low-hanging fruit. And a big part of that is to build those relationships. If you build those relationships, you'll be able to go after those low-hanging fruit a whole lot easier. And you'll be able to talk about what that low-hanging fruit is, because it might be slightly different for different customers. It just might be. So building those relationships to make that happen. Sell it like you mean it. You know what I mean? Boom. Well, that's all we're going to talk about today, guys. The low-hanging fruit. We really appreciate you guys joining us for this episode.
Go pick some fruit.
Go pick some. Can we get a shirt that says that? We're getting a lot of merch out of this.
Yeah,
that'll be the hot clip at the top. Go pick some fruit. Or Bobby talking about how he's never had a smoothie in his life. That also might be at the top because that was alarming. And don't worry, guys, we'll get Bobby a smoothie here shortly. We'll make sure he tries it, gets his vitamin C up.
I'll throw it in the trash.
Whoa.
So aggressive.
Slight little reaction, I feel.
Thank you guys so much for joining us this week for this episode of Going Up, and we look forward to seeing you soon. All right, bye guys.
That concludes another fabulous ride on the Going Up podcast. We hope you enjoyed the elevator tales, expert insights, and the unique camaraderie that makes our show a standout in the podcast world. If you've got your own elevator stories to share or questions about the vertical world, don't hesitate to reach out to us at podcast@FabACab.com. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Until next week, keep reaching for new heights, stay uplifted, and remember, when life takes you down, there's always an elevator to bring you back up. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next floor.